So what's a piece of advice you could give? Maybe something you already tell your students. Somebody who you're just getting started in your career as a screenwriter, and you talk about the blank page.
Mm-hmm.
Something to help break a story. Sometimes you just get stuck. Like, I just don't know how to start. What is a piece of advice you could give somebody just how to break that story and to get it to the meat of the project?
Well, two things come to mind. Great question. One is I always tell students early on in the process the antidote to writer's block. You know what it is? It's 3 words. Lower your standards.
Nope. Okay.
Writer's block is caused by perfectionism. So the reason why people don't start writing page 1 is because they're afraid it's not good enough, or it has to be perfect before they put anything down on the page.
Yeah.
I say divorce yourself from that. That's your ego. Those are the furies that tell you that everything you're going to do is garbage, that you're an imposter, that you can't do it. Just know that voice is never going to leave. It's always going to, it's like on one shoulder is the devil telling you can't do it and to give up, and all the negative neurotic things that we go through as writers. On the other side, though, is your muse, who's whispering in your ear and providing inspiration. So the second piece of advice is, I'm not a huge believer in outlining and structural plot points and formula, but I do like the very good old-fashioned stack of index cards. And I like to start off where you just have like 200 index cards that are blank, and you just lie down someplace comfortable, and just close your eyes and see if you can activate your imagination. If you see an image, write it down on a card, what you saw. If you hear a snippet of dialogue, write a piece of dialogue on a card. You don't have to worry structurally where the scenes will appear, or even if they'll appear. The goal is to try to come up with 1 to 200 wildcards that basically you're getting down on a bunch of cards, a lot of fragmented thoughts. And then once you have all those cards, you start to organize them and think, well, do these go together? Which ones are the most powerful ones in terms of telling the story? And I find that most people hate outlining, but everybody loves doing wildcards, because it's just a purely stream of consciousness kind of fun exercise to just say, I have all these thoughts in my head, and I'm going to just start to put them down on cards so that I don't forget them. And then I'll kind of look at the overview and lay them out on a table and see if I arrange them in a certain order, is this the story I want to tell? And if I'm missing connective tissue between them, what's missing, so that you can start to then become more critical. But the wild cards are about not being critical. They're just purely creative, because I strongly believe you can't be the critic and the creator at the same time. You got to let it rip, and then you go back and impose order, and you use the left side of your brain, which is more logical. You know what I mean? So those are two things I think to, those are two things that I think really help people just kind of keep going forward. And once you start, keep going. I think a lot of people make what I would call a, quote unquote mistake, that they just keep rewriting the first 10 pages over and over again, or they keep rewriting the first act over and over again. I think you're going to learn things as you get into Act 3 and later in the script that are really going to inform Acts 1 and End 2. So if you just keep rewriting the beginning, you're never going to make those discoveries. And so, so it's good enough. Move forward. When you're done, you'll have a draft. It'll be terrible, but it will then kind of tell you, all right, now I think I have a better idea of what this story is. And the next draft is the one that usually takes the biggest leap in terms of progress.
Yeah, there's just this feeling of, and I've gotten this too, just where you're writing something and like you said, you're thinking like, man, this is awful. People are going to hate this. You don't have to show that to anybody. Nobody else has to see what you're writing. It could be the worst thing in the world. Nobody else knows about it. Nobody cares until you physically show it to them. But
That's right.
there is that thing whispering in your ear, like, this is awful. Like, well, yeah, sure, but nobody knows about it yet, so who cares? So yeah,
Yes. Well, also, as we all know, everyone's a critic, and it's easy to criticize. It's hard to build and
yeah,
to
oh
risk.
yeah,
So there's a great expression used in writers' rooms for TV. The person who is usually very unpopular in a writer's room is the person who just keeps pointing out all the problems. They're like, and the expression in the writer's room is, we need firefighters, not arsonists. Um, don't just point out everything that's on fire that's not working. Come in with a solution and
okay.
suggest, how do we put that fire out and get the story back on track, as opposed to just being an arsonist where you just blow everything up. It's easy to do that. It's hard to build.
Yeah, that's definitely true.